While most of Hawaii's residents were enjoying the last hours of a leisurely weekend or getting ready for a normal work week, the U.S. Weather Service was tracking a dangerous storm deep in the South Pacific, a storm that would touch in some way the lives of everyone in the state in a matter of hours.
Is estimated at 23.0 north.
Early Monday morning, November 22nd, 1982, as the sky over Hawaii turned gray and the wind picked up, a tropical storm labeled Eva was upgraded to a full-fledged hurricane 335 miles southwest of Honolulu and traveling north at about 14 miles per hour. Tuesday morning, the winter surf on Kauai and Oahu continued to grow. The Weather Service posted a hurricane watch for Kauai and Niihau. A hurricane watch means the possible threat of strong damaging winds arriving within 36 hours. There was a possibility and a slim hope that Hurricane Eva would take a course through the Kauai Channel and miss both islands and blow itself out. As the day wore on, satellite photos made it clear that Eva, with winds reported to be 90 miles an hour with gusts up to 110, would hit Kauai and Niihau head-on. Things began to happen quickly. A hurricane warning was issued for Kauai and Niihau and a hurricane watch for Oahu. By 10:30 a.m., Kauai Mayor Eduardo Malapit had declared Kauai and Niihau to be in a state of emergency and warned them to be prepared for the worst.
We're on the threshold of a major hurricane that should hit this island tonight sometime. The winds are picking up, the ocean is already high. I've closed our county operations except for the police, public works, fire, and the water department. I've instructed all of my department heads to stand by at their office to receive calls. All of the county employees have been instructed to stand by and be ready, willing, and able to render assistance at all areas on an as-needed basis. The neighborhood centers and the evacuation areas will be open on or about 12:30 this afternoon. I think we can handle between 2,000 and 3,000 people who may evacuate if necessary. The Red Cross is also standing by. Civil Defense is fully operable at this time. The state of preparedness is on a very high level. I don't think we are afraid of the storm. We're just afraid of the good Lord because we have no idea what his wrath might be tonight.
KITV's reporters and cameramen immediately took to the field to record what would prove to be one of the most devastating storms ever to hit the state of Hawaii.
The Kauai Civil Defense Department says if you hadn't battened down the hatches or moved inland, you must do so immediately. The situation here on Kauai is going to get much worse. The seas that you see right here is going to get much higher. The winds probably up to 150 miles an hour.
Hurricane Eva maintained its course and picked up speed as it headed toward the Garden Isle. All schools on Kauai were closed and evacuation centers were set up. Governor Ariyoshi, taking no chances, extended the closing order to all Oahu schools. The storm was expected to hit Niihau and Kauai around 8 p.m. and Oahu shortly thereafter. The U.S. Weather Service predicted Hurricane Eva would hit the leeward coast of Oahu hardest. By nightfall, it was obvious their predictions were unfortunately very accurate. Oahu's last hurricane took place 23 years ago, August 1959, when Hurricane Dot hit the islands. Kauai reported the most damage in that storm, almost $6 million. But few remembered the fury of Hurricane Dot, and many weren't sure exactly what precautions should be taken. But as the day wore on, it was obvious to everyone that Hurricane Eva was going to leave an indelible mark on the memories of all of the residents and visitors of Hawaii, a day they would not soon forget. Preparations to contend with the inevitable wrath of Hurricane Eva by any unit of measure was admirable. There was generally a spirit of cooperation between the public and government officials at all levels. At the same time, everyone was exercising an abundance of caution, probably because no one remembered quite clearly how much respect and fear a hurricane should be given. On Kauai, the first declaration of respect came from airport officials.
There will be no more flights today. We are going to be closing the terminal building. We will ask you to depart the terminal building on the Gray Line buses arriving at the front of the terminal. They will shuttle you to the Kauai War Memorial Convention Hall, which is currently being used as a refugee center. From there, if it's possible, you will be taken to hotels. You will be taken back to the airport when the airport is again open for operations.
This is the Kauai Police Department. All beach residents are urged to leave the area.
I am a Red Cross nurse. I don't have my name tag or my band on because I was driving by and I realized there's a whole lot of people here. I think a lot more than what we had expected. I would suggest there's another center open in Koloa, which is the Koloa Neighborhood Center. And if some of you would like to go there, there's hardly anybody there right now. We don't know how long this will last or how long you'll have to be in this center. So if some of you would like to go to the Koloa Neighborhood Center, you may do that.
Meanwhile, on the island of Oahu, Civil Defense Headquarters had their hands full, as did the National Weather Service.
6 from Civil Defense, over. Negative, could you repeat it, please?
They need guns and they need some food. Over.
Okay, Roger, I will relay that information to the Red Cross to have food and cots taken to an Enchanted Lakes Elementary. Is that correct, over?
Control to Battalion 3. For your information, at this point we are unable to contact the gas company. We have no ETA on the troubleshooter.
I will tell you how he wants to broadcast and when. Do you understand? Over.
Civil Defense, standing by, over.
Tropical storm Eva was upgraded to a hurricane.
Right now, Hurricane Eva is about 140 miles west-southwest of Kauai, and within the next 5 hours at about 5 p.m. it should be 100 miles west-southwest of Kauai. Maximum winds at the present time are about 90 miles per hour with gusts to 110 miles per hour. As it proceeds during the night, we expect it to traverse very closely to the west coast of Kauai and then proceed up to the northeast. And so by tomorrow morning, we expect the hurricane to be well to the northeast of Kauai and to the north of Honolulu. What this means is that we are entering into the most dangerous period of Hurricane Eva. We will be getting the strongest winds within the next 6 to 8 hours. We will be experiencing very high wave activity on Niihau and Kauai, and we will get correspondingly high winds and a lot of rain and thunderstorms over Kauai and Oahu tonight.
One of the more bizarre events of Hurricane Eva was the realization that the impending disaster had triggered a shopping spree statewide, causing traffic jams and long lines at checkout counters. Survival equipment was in demand.
All our flashlights, our batteries, we have no back stocks of flashlights already. So it's going pretty good. I guess everybody believes what's happening.
The civil defense authorities were taking no chances, advising residents to listen to the radio and television for the latest information, to keep a flashlight handy in case of a power outage, to secure all outdoor objects.
What are you guys doing up there?
Taking them down!
Why?
Because of the storm!
After all of the preparations had been accomplished, just about everyone in the state was waiting, listening to the wind increase in velocity, no one knowing what to really expect. By definition, a hurricane is a whirling storm measuring several hundred miles across with winds blowing at least 75 miles an hour or more. If it doesn't blow that hard, it's a tropical storm. The hurricane center is a calm area called the eye. The most dangerous part of a hurricane is at the edge of the eye. It usually has winds that can reach speeds of 200 miles an hour. It is the part of Hurricane Eva that would take a path right over Niihau and through the center of Kauai. To track the hurricane, the U.S. Weather Service sends out airplanes to see where it is, how great its strength is, how fast it's moving, and in which direction. The plane sends the hurricane's vital statistics back to the U.S. Weather Bureau in Honolulu, who in turn relays the information to civil defense authorities around the state. To do all of this, the hurricane is named. 5 years ago, the U.S. Hurricane Center in Miami used to pick a girl's name from a permanent list of 84 names. Since 1978, hurricanes developing in the South Pacific have been named by the U.S. Weather Service office in Honolulu, using Hawaiian names in alphabetical order. Therefore, the name of this hurricane is Eva, a seabird, the 9th tropical storm, the biggest storm to smash the Hawaiian Islands since 1959. It battered Niihau, Kauai, and Oahu with winds recorded at times at 110 miles per hour, knocking down power and other utility lines, tearing off rooftops, smashing windows, causing heavy marine damage, and forcing the evacuation of nearly 6,000 residents on Kauai and 1,000 on Oahu. At its peak, the fury of Eva was frightening to behold.
The structure damage on Kauai is very heavy. There's been several buildings that are flat, have been taken down flat with the ground. Some in the Nawiliwili area, some here in the Lehui area. Numerous plate glass windows are out. Debris is all over the road.
Do you have any idea how many Kauai residents are in the shelters now?
The last report we had, there was about 5,800 people in our shelters at the present time.
Tell me about what happened when you were in your room.
Well, we were in there and the door was open. We were just going inside, and then it was over on one side of the bed, and the window just blew right out, just as if an explosion was coming in, and blew the windows all across the bed. Fortunately, the drapes were closed, so nobody got hurt.
Well, right now we tied down right here. We can't go to our families that, they're trapped in the homes right now. And we want to know, we're supposed to be working, but, with this weather like that, we can't go anywhere. We can't even move, Just got to stay here overnight, and we're worrying about our parents and family at home, What's the situation at home,
It's very bad. Can't go to our rooms. All we got to do is stay down here right now. I don't know what's going to happen until this storm passes. And by God, let's pray.
On Oahu, many people felt the same way.
We put tires all along the side of it and tried to keep it from banging against the pier, and some big surges come through and a big wind gust toppled the top off of it, and the tires all popped out and they just chewed it up on the pier. That's all that's left of it, just the residue. That's it.
We're telling me you were at the airport when that plate glass window shattered out at the holding area at Gate 18. Is that correct?
Right. I was on my way out to Dallas, and I was staring out the window. It began to shudder back and forth. My roommate and I decided it was time to get away from it. And as soon as we did, it just exploded.
Well, first wave hit about 8 o'clock, came through the bottom of the window. And the second wave came about 8:15. And then the biggest wave came about 9 o'clock. Our main diameter was breaking about 5 to 6 feet.
All right, let's go. Which one? Pick one out. All of them.
Ball it around pier 4. Take this line
Put it around the other side. What do we do? Where do we go? Over to pier 4. Around the sidewalk. Out in front. All right. Anybody got a truck? Anybody got a truck? Show them on the truck. Who's got a hurry up? Beat it. Go, go. Yeah. Wait a minute. This line has got to go on the starboard side.
Ship. I've been serving on this ship free for the last 2 years. I'm in the Coast Guard, and I was riffed, and I'm still serving free. We almost lost 2 of our men. We have just saved this ship. That was my concern. And out here, I'm soaking wet. I just got the compass. I got the light off board. We saved the ship. We saved the personnel. We probably have some cracks in the hull. But I love the ship, and I want to say, and I want to thank the man from named Workman. He's a tourist here, for going over to KGU because the telephone company would not help me. They would not give a damn. I told them I had guys that almost drowned. They still wouldn't help me. They wouldn't patch me through to anybody. And thanks to that KGU and that tourist, and please help tourists, we got that ship, and we finally, after all these hours, got the tugs to come in here and pull this away. I also, with all these great people, they all came down here, all these great people from Hawaii, be them Howleys or Hawaiians or whatever the hell they are, they all came to help, and they were fabulous.
At the height of the storm, the Waianae coast was sealed off by a raging surf that stormed across Farrington Highway near Lualua and made passage by car or on foot hazardous.
But you know what, if you all cooperate and get inside the shelter, it'll be all right.
Evacuation centers like Nanakuli High School were eerie sights, illuminated only by emergency lights and television crews. Most of the people were Leeward residents on their way home when the storm hit, who had been to work and were diverted to the evacuation sites by police roadblocks.
I've never experienced anything like that. It's really frightening. There's just no control. There's just nothing. You're just, you know, being controlled by an element that you have no control over, and you don't know whether you're going to get out of it or not.
Police had to block Farrington Highway because the heavy surf would occasionally surge across the highway without warning.
My daughter said, "There's water coming, Mom." And I said, "What do you mean there's water coming?" And I said, "Not now, not now." And all of a sudden, that was all, the next thing we knew, we were hit with a wave. It was frightening. I was really thinking about God, that he was somehow going to get us out of it.
Hurricane Eva, after demolishing 3 of the Hawaiian islands, charged off to the northwest of Honolulu to fade into the sea. The sun came out for the first time in several days. Despite the fury of the hurricane, there was only one storm-related death, a crew member aboard the guided missile destroyer Goldsboro, who was killed when the ship was hit by a 30-foot wave leaving Pearl Harbor. When it was all over, Hurricane Eva had toppled trees, broke telephone poles in half like matchsticks, ripped power lines from the ground, blocked roads with debris, turned over cars, and left many a home in shambles. The bruised landscape left most observers awestruck.
It's extremely windy and noisy. It was dark. You heard people, yelling, and these civil defense people yelling and screaming at each other. But they kept good guard on everybody. They watched all through the night. They had their lamps going and checking on us, bringing us blankets, bringing food. They really took good care of us. But it was a little scary, just a little.
What do you say about your car?
There it is. You want to buy a car? I think a tow truck, and I'll be able to get it out of here if they can clear a few of these others. But if you look around, I didn't do so bad compared.
Oh, making me so scared. I don't know what to say. Everything, you know, shaking, and I look at the outside, everything was flying, yeah. Roofing and everything, yeah. Well, that's all I get to say.
I don't.
Like on Kauai, the devastation to parts of Oahu was similar. It left many families homeless, and the path of Hurricane Eva had left a trail of destruction and misery.
Right, so everything you own and where you live, this is this boat.
That's it. That's everything right there. We were so concerned about saving the boat, didn't worry about saving anything in the boat.
About 8 o'clock last night, the first wave came in. It was about 25 feet high. It came over both the stories in the house. We were eating in the living room to our right here, in the upper living room. Luckily, the blinds were pulled down, the glass came in, the walls came in, the furniture started going out in the ocean, and we just had enough time to grab our wallets, grab a couple pieces of clothes, and go out the back door.
I was sleeping here, sound asleep.
What happened? What did it sound like?
The loudest thunder I ever heard in my life.
What did you do?
Jumped out of bed. Then a friend of mine came upstairs and he thought the mango tree fell on the roof.
What will you do now?
What I'm going to do now, I don't know. My wife not home.
No, very fortunately, we were unscathed. We just had the presence of mind. We're fortunate we're in the right place at the right time. We're in the dining room, we went in the inside wall, and everything went right on over top of our heads. And no one was even scratched.
Basically, after the storm hit, we evacuated the station here, and we locked it up. And apparently, someone broke in the window and stole some of our cigarettes and beer. No major damage as far as looting, but we did have some theft here.
You're sleeping here 24 hours a day?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because of the looting that we fear is going around. Our neighbors got robbed, and the store over here, a gas station, they got broke into. And we do have a burglar alarm that runs off of batteries, but they can still maybe come through the ceiling like they did over here.
The house is material, and the family means more than the material things that we have. So we're thankful for that. And our dogs are saved too.
down into the water. There's a lot of vehicles. Stay up there.
Hawaiian Electric says the biggest problem on the leeward coast is localized damage. They say new poles are going to have to be put in and new lines will have to be strung. Until that work is done, the Waianae coast will have to do without power. And that could be as long as 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, I just heard about it, that we're not going to have power for a month. But how do you expect we to survive now?
At one point in time, after Hurricane Eva hit Oahu, the islands in the state were not only isolated from each other, save one radio station on Molokai and a ham radio operator on Kauai, but isolated from the mainland. It was then and is today still a cause of great concern.
Well, I think we really need to sit down and have a good critique of how we responded in this particular case. I think we need to anticipate the possibility of not having communication with the public, as has happened in this case. Television is down, radio is down. I'm concerned about the public out there not having information. We have to look at that, and certainly we have to look at the kind of support that we get from the federal government in that in a hurricane situation. There's a lot more support, I think, in areas like Florida where they expect this sort of thing, but we've never expected this type of circumstance, and so we have to reassess the whole situation, I think.
The U.S. Weather Bureau in Hawaii probably experienced the most crucial and frustrating communications breakdown on the day of the storm. At around 6 p.m., while in the middle of tracking Hurricane Eva and furnishing crucial information to the public, they lost all teletype and satellite contact and a vital link to the National Weather Service.
Well, it's very bad. We don't have any communications with the outside world, and there's no way we can get data in. There's no way we can get data out, so this really puts us in a bind.
This is virtually a paralysis for you at this time.
Yes, absolutely. We have very, very limited communications. We're very fortunate that we have the Amateur Radio Emergency Services providing that type of capability for us right at this time.
They have heard from relatives and
But the U.S. Weather Bureau in Honolulu was not the only one experiencing transmission difficulties. Radio station KGU, the state's designated emergency broadcast station, could not stay on the air even with the aid of a standby generator. And when it was on the air, it lacked timely information to disseminate.
How did it go last night? How did the flow of information go?
Well, at the very beginning, the flow of information was very sparse, mainly because telephone lines were down. We lost our power here at the studio. We were on auxiliary power for the most of the night. And when we lost our power, we didn't have those little lights that came on the telephone to light up, you know. So we just took it one step at a time, pushed the buttons, and hopefully somebody was on the line, and they were. The lines were just packed. Lack of information, we had some. We didn't really hear a lot from the police department locally. We had to make calls to the police department, but I'm sure they had their hands full. The civil defense worked fairly well. It could have been better. We got reports about once every 2 hours. I was a little surprised about that. I think it should come in a little more rapidly than it did.
What about the weather service?
Weather service, we were unable to contact. We lost the power to the UPI machines and Associated Press machines, so we could not make contact. We had a problem through the telephones.
The Honolulu Police Department also experienced communication problems. It made the dispatching of officers to emergency areas extremely difficult, if not impossible.
I think it was a loss of power in most of the areas and the inaccessibility of the roadways due to flooding. we had some problems in evacuation because of the flooding conditions. But, the biggest problem, I think, is when the power went down and when the general public wasn't aware of what was happening because most of the media was down.
The fire department was on the job day and night, like other agencies charged with the general safety and welfare of the public in times of crisis.
I think for the fire department, our problem on the Windward side in particular was the breakdown in communications. We lost one of our transmitter stations on a call out for about an hour, and it hampered our operations a little bit. Then our radio technicians got the power back restored, and it was all right from then. And the other problem was down power lines, which created problems for our companies getting to the scene. They found themselves having to backtrack and find another way to a particular address because of the down power lines.
The Oahu Civil Defense also experienced communication problems, and as it turns out, Hurricane Eva gave them the ideal opportunity to test their system.
Our major problem, of course, was communications, and this is a result of where the winds knock out power lines and that sort of thing, and affects communications in that way. And this is a very real problem, of course, and we just got a good taste of it last night. And it could be much worse if we had the full impact of a hurricane.
The testimony you've just heard proves that the blackouts presented a major problem for emergency agencies during the hurricane. At one point in time, Kauai and Niihau experienced a 100% blackout when Kauai Electric's Lehui plant went offline. On Oahu, there was a 93% loss of power. The president of Hawaiian Electric, C. Dudley Pratt, explained what happened on the island of Oahu.
Hawaiian Electric Company has suffered very severe damage in the system on the island of Oahu. And while we certainly do feel a strong sense of duty to provide you with service as fast as possible, I recognize that some of you people will not have electric service within the next day or two. And I hate to have to say that, but at the same time I have to be realistic and tell you about things the way they are. As you can see from this map, we have just indicated a few of the major lines or transmission lines that are out by these big red X's. Actually, to encapsulate the situation in a nutshell, the area from Kaneohe all the way up the windward side of the island to Kahuku, back down the north shore to Waialua, from Waialua to Wahiawa is out of service and will remain out of service for some day or days to come. Some of you are in areas in this part of the island that are undergoing what we call rolling blackouts. This is necessitated by the fact that we have only a very few lines, one or two, that are in operation over to this side of the island and back into Waikiki area. And with this one line that is trying to carry all of this end of the island by itself, where usually we have three, we don't have the capacity to provide the service to everyone. So we're, in effect, taking turns.
Incredibly, Hurricane Eva had destroyed 2 of the 3 Trans-Koolau power lines. By doing so, it plunged the island of Oahu into almost total darkness. The spirit of cooperation was never more visible, nor was the importance of electricity more evident to a community than when the United States Navy offered to use their nuclear submarine Indianapolis to jumpstart the Lehui power plant. A novel idea that didn't materialize, but an idea that did show the degree of cooperation abounding in the wake of Hurricane Eva. The Navy also flew in 2 750 kilowatt generators from Travis Air Base to assist the power-stricken Garden Isle. The generators were sent to Kauai on barges and eventually helped to restore power. in a heartwarming display of cooperation between federal, state, and local government. Having a day-and-a-half warning allowed preparations. Preparation time Mayor Eduardo Malapit was grateful for, and for a good reason.
I'm grateful that at this stage, no major injury and no death.
On Friday morning, Governor George Ariyoshi, after surveying the damage on Kauai, Niihau, and Oahu, declared them major disaster areas, clearing the way for the release of $1.2 million in state monies for loans and repair to public facilities.
Here is very extensive, and I'm really shocked at the extent of the damages. All of the trees, the roof, the buildings are being damaged. It's a horrible sight.
To date, the damages caused by Hurricane Eva are expected to reach at least $150 million and maybe more. President Reagan responded quickly to Governor Ariyoshi's request and also declared the state of Hawaii a disaster area following the hurricane. The action releases additional disaster relief funds. The monies can be used for making minor repairs to make a home livable again, or assistance in placing eligible applicants in new housing. As early as Friday, members of the Federal Emergency Management Agency had arrived in Hawaii and wasted no time in meeting with Kauai residents.
Del Monte.
The hardest hit federal property in the state was on the island of Oahu at Schofield Barracks.
Will you be helping in that too, help cut some corners in that too?
I'll do my best, and for example, in this case here at Schofield Barracks, there's a question as to whether the contingency fund has enough money to cover the losses here. If not, I'll go before the Military Construction Committee and seek additional funds.
As residents in the state began to clean up and repair their homes, an unsuspected benefit of Hurricane Eva surfaced.
Right now, our hours worked in our industry are down about 33% compared to last year. And 150 million represents about 15% of our total volume. So I suspect that 15% more workers will be out there.
There were other surprises. Ironically, with the power out for so long, ice became a precious commodity, like candles, lanterns, and flashlights had earlier.
Have any ice at all? Any at all?
Any ice?
Yeah.
We have not much.
I don't need much.
We're looking for 100 pounds. Is that possible?
It will be some time before it is known just how much Hurricane Eva hurt the tourist industry, if at all.
In national news, the first hurricane to hit Hawaii in 23 years has left one Navy seaman dead and at least 10 other people injured. Hurricane Iwa also forced more than 7,000 people to flee their homes early today and caused millions of dollars in property damage.
In any event, probably the most scary byproduct of Hurricane Eva was its ability to damage our power plants.
This is probably the worst electrical emergency that Oahu has ever seen. In the memory of anyone who's working at Hawaiian Electric that I've talked to tonight. It's unprecedented, and until the light of day, it's going to be difficult to know just the full extent of it. The big problem is that the winds and the waves have just really devastated parts of our system. Trees have fallen into our lines. There are lines that are lying over people's homes. Difficult to start energizing your system until you go through very methodically and ensure that there is no danger to those people who are on that circuit.
If another major storm comes through next year, would we expect to see the same problem develop?
I suppose one could make an argument that if you put all your utility lines underground, you would not have any lines to get blown down by the wind or trees or whatever. The cost of doing that, however, is considerably more than overhead lines. We're talking multiples of 5 to 10 times more expensive. So you must always balance the cost of doing something like that with the potential advantage. It would have been difficult to predict a storm like this, of course, but we can predict what the rates would be if you had all your lines underground.
It will be a while before people forget Hurricane Eva. It will be a while before the damages are all repaired. And hopefully, it will be a long while before the South Pacific spawns another hurricane that chooses the state of Hawaii as its target.
What are you going to do next?
I don't know.